Very good evening and welcome to the Buddhist Mahavira's Facebook page. We are going live this evening here from BMV, and this is the Dhammadana series, and we have already now come to December of 2022, almost the year end. This evening, we have with us a very erudite and highly educated Buddhist monk who I believe is currently based in Sri Lanka, a very young monk. And this Bhante will be talking to us about mudita and also how mudita is a Buddhist practice that we can use in our daily lives for a happier life as well. So, without much ado, I'd like to invite Bhante P Vijithananda to join us in the studio. Good evening, Bhante. Welcome to the
Good
Buddhist
evening.
Mahavira. So, before we start, let me quickly read Bhante's profile for those of you who are not very familiar, and also for me, because this is the first time I'm meeting Bhante here at the Dhammadana series. Now, Venerable Palmadule Vijitananda is a Sri Lankan monk. Now, he's highly recognized for his academic achievements in the traditional monastic education in Myanmar. Having ordained in under the late Arya Dhamma Mahathera in 2010, Bhante Vijitananda, as a novice, got the wonderful opportunity to continue his monastic education in Myanmar at a very early age. In Myanmar, the trajectory of Bhante Vijitananda's connections with monastic education has gone from a keen enthusiast to being professionally recognized for his academic pursuits, making him one of the record holders of the highly celebrated and toughest traditional monastic exams held in Myanmar. He won fourth place for the whole country in that exam. Now, as a way of rewarding his achievements, he was given the title of Abhivamsa, an honorific title only a few are given. He also successfully completed the 6-year degree program called Sasana Dajja Dhammacharya. Because of his academic and language skills, he got the opportunity to teach Buddhism in Myanmar, in the Myanmar language, in one of the reputed traditional academic colleges there. During his stay in Myanmar, he trained himself in the Mahasi meditation technique and stayed in different monasteries under the supervision of famous monastic teachers. At present, Bhante Vijitananda serves as a teacher at the newly built International Institute of Theravada, and conducts a few online classes as well. In addition, he has completed a postgraduate diploma in psychology at the University of Peradeniya and an MA in Pali at the PGIPBS of the Kelaniya University. Now, Venerable is currently reading for his MPhil at the Postgraduate Institute of Pali in Buddhist Studies. That was Bante's CV, a very impressive CV indeed. And without much ado, I'd like to invite Bante to start this evening's Dhamma sharing. Bante?
Thank you, Mr. Leslie, for introducing me to the audience. So let's start listening to Dhamma by reciting Namo Tassa for 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Good evening, everyone. So I hope the audience, all the people who are listening to the Dhamma are familiar with the Buddhist teachings, because you all regularly listen to the Dhamma, and you all regularly associate Buddhist monks and Buddhist teachings. So I selected a topic today that can be immensely beneficial for your lives. A topic that is not just a theory, but is a practice that you can experience, that you can practice in your day-to-day lives. And that is in Pali terms, that is mudita, and I mentioned it in the topic as a Buddhist practice for a happier life. So this mudita is a term that many Buddhists and even non-Buddhists have heard of, because as a term, as a Pali term, it's a famous term. Maybe you have heard of Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekha. We call them in Pali Brahma Vihara, sublime states or sublime abides. So among these 4 sublime abides or noble abides, mudita is one, the third one of them. Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekha. So this term is familiar for many of us, but how many of us have practically experienced mudita? How many of us have developed mudita in ourselves? Do you have any experience with mudita? Can you explain mudita in few sentences? So many of them, this can be a challenge. The reason is that we do not often talk about this mental state. We do not often focus on this mental state. So when I call it a mental state is any quality, any factor that can be seen or that can be found, that can be experienced in our mind. In Buddhism, we separate the mind into 2 parts, the mind and the mental states. Mind is just the consciousness, just knowing things, just cognizing things, and the mental states are the other factors, other parts, other states that can be experienced in our mind. For example, greed or lust is not the mind but a mental state. Anger is not the mind but a mental state. When it comes to the good side, compassion is not the mind but a mental state. Loving kindness is not the mind but a mental state. And in Pali, saddha or faith is not the mind but a mental state. Sati or mindfulness is not the mind but a mental state. So this mudita is also a mental state. It is not the mind, but it is something. It is a quality in our mind. It is a quality that can be experienced in our mind. It is a quality that can be developed in our mind. So, so that is mudita. But how do you understand mudita? How can we describe mudita? Mudita is, in simple words, mudita is joy. Mudita is happiness. So to develop mudita is to develop joy, to develop happiness. But happiness about what? Joy about what? Mudita is the joy or happiness about our own happiness, our own success, and also about others' happiness and others' success. So because of that, we can call mudita a secondary happiness or a vicarious happiness, happiness about happiness, happiness about success. In other ways, we translate mudita as sympathetic joy. Sympathetic joy. It is joy and it is also sympathetic when someone else is happy, when someone else is joyful, when someone else is delightful. We sympathetically joy it, we rejoice it, we become happy about it. So that is mudita. Maybe you have even heard this description about mudita. Mudita is being happy about yours and other people's happiness and success. But have you experienced it in yourself? And have you tried to develop it in yourself? In Buddhism, we learn this mudita or this sympathetic joy under the 40 types of meditations. We call them samatha bhavana or tranquility meditations, which means Buddhism suggests you, encourages you to develop it. It's not just a mental state that is hiding within ourselves, but that is something we should try to improve within ourselves. And by improving it, you can experience various benefits in this self and also in the next life. And the ultimate goal of Buddhism is to attain Nibbana. So this mudita practice also helps you to reach that ultimate goal. So here I would like to, before going further, before explaining further about this mudita practice, I would like to pay attention to something else, that is, many people nowadays see and interpret Buddhism as a pessimism. People see Buddhism as a pessimistic religion. The reason is that, or the reason they tell is that Buddhism focuses on suffering. Buddhism always talks about suffering. And Buddhism always focuses on the negative aspects of the world, the negative aspects of the existence. Why can't we focus on the positive sides? Why can't we talk about the happiness? Why can't we talk about the good sides of the world? Why should we focus on the suffering? So that claim itself is wrong. Buddhism does not only focus on the suffering. Yes, Buddhism talks about suffering a lot, and that is because Buddhism presents something called ultimate happiness, real happiness, and we call it Nibbana. In other words, the cessation of suffering. And when we compare to it, compared to the Nibbana, compared to the that ultimate happiness, everything else, every other types of happiness cannot even be called as happiness, according to the Buddhist doctrine. When you compare all types of happiness that we can experience in our day-to-day life, in this mundane world, when we compare them with the ultimate happiness, which is Nibbana, all these things, all types of other happiness can even be called as suffering. But remember, that is because we compared it with the ultimate happiness that is taught in the Buddhism. But when we come to the worldly speaking, when we talk about the worldly things, when the Buddha, even Buddha himself talks about the worldly things, he appreciates, he recognizes the worldly happiness as happiness. He recognizes the joyful experiences as joyful. If you have learned the Theravada Abhidhamma, you may have heard that we talk about, Somanassa Vedana or Sukha Vedana. That is happiness. The physical and mental comfort, we call them by the terms Sukha or Somanassa, happiness or comfort. In Buddhism, we recognize the worldly happiness as happiness. But that means we in Buddhism encourages the followers to realize or understand the reality as it is. In Buddhism, the Buddhism encourages us to see happiness as happiness and to see suffering as suffering. And again, in the next step, when the follower is to attain the ultimate happiness, then he is encouraged to see the negative sides, negative aspects of all mundane experiences. And that is why in Buddhist teachings you find everything is suffering. That is a comparison. But this practice we are learning today, we are focusing on today, is a good proof that Buddhism teaches their followers to appreciate the joy, to appreciate the happiness. So in this mudita practice, as I mentioned earlier, we focus on happiness, we focus on goal, we focus on joy within ourselves and in others. We focus on the both. First, let's think, why should we develop this quality? Why shouldn't we ignore this quality? Actually, we can say in our traditions, we have forgotten this great mental state that have great benefits. But why should we focus on this? Why should we talk a lot about this? Why should we ourselves develop this and encourage our loved ones to develop this? The reason is that there are one opposite mental state, that is to say envy or jealousy, in other words, that we experience in a daily basis when maybe our friends or someone we know attain something that we do not have. We feel envious, we feel jealous, and that envy or jealousy burns ourselves. When the envy arises within ourselves, that's a burning feeling. That's not a good feeling. No one of us likes to experience envy or jealousy because that's not a good feeling. And in a Buddhist viewpoint, envy, jealousy, they are unwholesome mental states. They are not good mental states. In this life and also in the how to say, in the samsara, or in the afterlife, envy does not give you good results. It always results bad. Let's say you have a good friend, and he or she has something very good to tell you, to come and tell you. Maybe he or she passed an exam or attained a life goal or something like that, and he or she comes to you and explain what happened with a smiling face or laughing face. And at that moment, if you are feeling envious, if you are feeling jealous, that can affect your friendship as well. This is something very common. This is not something that happens rarely. Maybe he or she will not understand that you are envious, but you will feel guilty for being envious about your own friend or about your own family member or anyone you know. So mudita, or the sympathetic joy, is the opposite of this bad mental state called envy. When we develop mudita, the envy or jealousy in ourselves, or we can say the envy level of ourselves decreases. So we can, and that is one side of it. In other side, we can always feel good. We can always feel happy, because you see, there are many occasions, there are ample situations in the world that you can happy about. Let's say you have 20 friends, and at every and each time one of them attains something, one of them succeed in somewhere of their life. If you have practiced this mental quality, if you have this mental quality in yourself, you also can be happy in every and each of that occasion. That is the next benefit of mudita. Another thing is that, according to the Theravada Abhidharma, when you develop one good mental quality, many other mental qualities follow. For example, if you develop metta or loving kindness, that can be a support, that can be a help for compassion to arise. If you regularly practice compassion, loving kindness also will follow. And if you practice mudita, sympathetic joy, loving kindness and compassion also will follow. That is same with the unwholesome mental states. If you always consciously or unconsciously develop anger, many other unconscious mental states will get the chance to arise, because they are in one group. They have the similar qualities. We can separate all the mental states as wholesome and unwholesome. When you develop one wholesome quality, many other wholesome qualities will automatically develop in your mind. When you develop one unwholesome mental state, consciously or unconsciously, many other unwholesome mental states automatically will be developed in your mind. So if you choose to, or if you determine to develop mudita, that will be a great support for many other good or wholesome mental states to be developed in your mind. So that will be a great thing to happen in your spiritual journey. So So that is mudita. So let's then focus on how this mudita works. So the common example we take to explain this loving kindness, compassion, and also mudita, sympathetic joy, is the parents example. Let's say when a child succeed in his life, the parents are feeling immense happiness for the child's success. Some parents may expect something from their child's success. Maybe in the future they will get something because their child succeed in his life. But most of the parents tend to experience immense joy, immense happiness without any expectation when their children succeed. When your son or daughter succeed in their lives, you feel a great happiness within yourself. And this is the best example for mudita. That is mudita. But can you experience this same feeling, this same emotion when you hear your neighbor's son or daughters succeeded in some way of their lives? Can you have this same emotion when you hear someone who is not familiar with you succeeded in their lives? When you go, let's say when you are walking on the road and you see someone is immensely happy, can you be happy for him or her? So that is the difference. We ourselves have this mental quality, but it is limited to our circle. Maybe that is limited only to your family. In our mudita practice, what we do is we develop this mudita towards your family, towards your neighbors, towards your relatives and your friends and all you know, and also towards all you don't know. So that is the wholesome type of joy taught in Buddhism. That is sympathetic joy. So before doing this, before spreading this joy towards all others, the Buddha encourages us to have sympathetic joy towards ourselves. As I mentioned, we may have this experience time to time, but the Buddha, the Lord Buddha, encourages us to develop this, encourages us to have this as a practice, as a habit. How often do you feel happy about yourself? How often do you feel joyful about yourself? Many of us will answer that we do not feel happy about ourselves often. Time to time, maybe rarely, we feel happy about ourselves, but most of the time, in most people, there is that habit of looking for the negative sides of ourselves, negative sides of themselves, the bad aspects of ourselves. We always focus on the bad sides of ourselves, not the good sides. But if I tell you to do an exercise for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, if I ask you to focus on your life and count some blessings in your life, count some aspects in your life that you consider as blessings, you consider as successes, for sure you will be able to count dozens of such aspects, because every and each of us have such dozens of aspects in our lives. We have many things that we can be happy about. We have many things in our lives that we can be joyful about. But we rarely focus on them. We tend to focus on the negative sides, not the positive sides. So maybe you would think then that focusing on the positive, focusing on the good aspects of ourselves can be something artificial. It's not the normal tendency, but it's something abnormal. But I would say, in fact, there is this tendency within ourselves to go for happiness, going for happiness, then going for the sadness or the negativity. It has its psychological roots. Maybe those who have learned psychology have heard of the pleasure principle. That is something in our innermost, how to say, it's in the unconscious part of ourselves, and that pleasure principle simply means we always seek for the pleasurable things. We always seek for the happiness. We always want joy. That is an innermost drive that is there within ourselves, in each and every one of us. That is what psychology says. So if we practice this mudita practice, or if we start to develop this sympathetic joy practice, we can be able to experience this joy, experience this pleasure. Most of the times, whenever we find something good about ourselves, we can be happy. Whenever we find something good about our friend, we can be happy. Whenever we hear or see something good about our family, our friends, our relatives, we can be happy. So that is what we can expect from this mudita practice. So where we stop this, first we have to focus on ourselves and try to find good aspects of ourselves. For sure, most of us will find many aspects that are positive, many aspects that are good, many successes of our lives, many things that we have gained, many life goals that we have reached. And after focusing on them, then we have to try to be happy about those things. So the ancient Buddhist meditation techniques introduce some statements that you can use for that. For example, you focus on your happiness and you say to yourself, may I always be this happy. May I always be this happy. May this happiness only increase. You wish for yourself, for your happy to increase. You wish for yourself, for your happiness to be as it is always. And you have to repeatedly say these statements to yourself. At first, in the beginning, you will not feel anything if you don't have any experience with this good mental state, which is mudita. But as you practice, maybe you can allocate few minutes a day to practice mudita towards yourself. When you go to bed before sleeping, maybe you can focus on whole day, from the morning to night, and you can think of some aspects that you can be happy about yourself, and then you can develop this practice to be happy about yourself. So actually in the modern world we call this gratitude, right? We call this gratitude, but now you can see this gratitude has I would say the Buddha has taught, has guided us a practice that we can develop gratitude, and also that we can develop spiritually at the same time. So this Buddhist path is not just for being happy, but as you know, every and each practice that is taught in Buddhism focuses on its ultimate goal, that is Nibbana, the cessation of suffering. So this mudita practice can guide you, can lead you towards that goal as well. So that is spreading mudita towards yourself, and then spreading mudita towards others. This can be a difficult task at the beginning, because I mean, for someone who does not have such attitudes, such feelings about others, some people they originally have such kind of attitudes, and for them this may not be a difficult task. So the ancient Buddhist techniques guide us to first spread mudita towards your best friend, really best friend, because if you have a real best friend, whenever you see or hear that your best friend is happy, when he or she is joyful, automatically a joy, a happy feeling arises in yourself. So that is not something you have to strive for, that is not something you have to struggle for, that automatically arises. So start from him or her. When you see your best friend is smiling with you, when you see your best friend is laughing at something, when you hear your best friend attain something, succeeded at something, then that is the place for you to, that is the time for you to develop mudita, sympathetic joy. You can say to yourself, may his or her happiness only increase. May she or he be always this happy. Say it to yourself a few times, maybe 10 times, and your joy will double and triple. And when you comfortably feel mudita or sympathetic joy towards your friend, then you can spread it towards others as well. Maybe your family members, your relatives, your neighbors, and towards the people that you do not know. You are going to the office and there are many people that you see on the way. So whenever you see someone smiling, someone laughing, someone who is happy about something, no matter what, you can say to yourself this mudita statements. And if you practice this for few days, you will experience a huge change yourself. There will be hundreds of opportunities each and every day for you to be happy. There will be hundreds of opportunities for you to be happy about yourself as well. You will find more and more good aspects of yourself. You will see lesser and lesser bad aspects or negative aspects of yourself. So this is what mudita can do. This is how mudita can change ourselves. So the Visuddhimagga, the Buddhist, Asian Buddhist text that presents the guidance for all the Buddhist meditations, mention that one of the opposites of mudita is arati, unhappiness or boredom. Even so, this arati, or we translated it as boredom, unhappiness, disappears when you develop mudita. Buddha himself in one sutta admonished his own son, Venerable Rahula, to develop mudita. And as the benefit of developing mudita, the Buddha mentioned that this arati or boredom, unhappiness, disappears because of mudita. So by practicing mudita, you can experience a long-lasting happiness. The reason is that, let's say you develop mudita for just 10 minutes per day before going to sleep or in the early morning. What you are doing is you are focusing on the happiness. You are merely focusing on the happiness. You do not focus on anything else. Not the suffering, not deep statements in Buddhism or anything else, but just the happiness. Happiness is a simple idea that anyone can focus very easily. So when you focus on happiness for 10 minutes, and that is not just focusing on happiness, but you are developing happiness in yourself as well for 10 minutes, that can influence your whole day. That 10 minutes happiness practice can influence your whole day. And I have read in an article, there was a research there was a psychological research, and a group of people were asked to write about something very good, very pleasurable memory, very good memory that they had in their mind for 20 minutes a day. For 20 minutes a day, they had to focus on that experience and they had to write it. They were asked to write it. And they were asked to write it in a day-to-day basis, regularly, for, as I can remember, for a few weeks. And then after that, when they again examined the group, all of them admitted that their happiness level has increased. They were experiencing happiness more often. So this mudita practice has this very benefit. We are focusing on happiness, we are developing happiness in ourselves, and that influences our whole day. If you develop this mudita for few days, few weeks, few months, that can influence your whole life. So that's why in the beginning I mentioned, this is a hidden practice in Buddhism. We often talk about loving kindness, we often talk about compassion, but we rarely talk about sympathetic joy. But if someone really develop this sympathetic joy, he or she can experience immense benefits. His or her life can immensely change for the good side. So I invite all the people who listen to the Dhamma talk today to try this. This is a Buddhist practice. You can read about this practice in Visuddhimagga and many other Buddha's suttas. So and this is also found in the 4 sublime states. We call them Brahma Vihara, Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekha. Mudita is the 3rd one of them. So please read about this mudita. Please ask if you have someone knowledgeable, you can ask for guidance. Or if this very Dhamma talk is also a very good guidance if you really want to practice mudita. So I invite you all to start the practice, at least try mudita practice for a few days, and you will see the change of yourselves. Okay, thank you all for listening to the Dhamma talk.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you for this very interesting talk. I see there's one question posed by the audience. I'll put it onto the screen. Can you see the question, Bhante?
Yeah, I can see. Are Buddhists truly happy people, and why? That is a very, very good question, tough question, I would say. Are Buddhists truly happy people? Buddhists are supposed to be truly happy people. Buddhists are supposed to be truly happy people, but I cannot say about the Buddhists who are living in nowadays, because we can see in many Buddhist countries there are thousands of hundreds of thousands of poor people who are not happy at all about themselves, about their own lives. So that is another story. But Buddhists are supposed to be happy. The reason is that before attaining the let's first focus on the other side. After attaining the ultimate goal, that means if someone follows the Buddhist teachings and then attain the ultimate goal that is presented in Buddhism, then he or she has nothing to worry. They do not feel sadness. They feel compassion when someone else is not happy, but they do not experience sadness. They do not experience worry. They are not fear about anything. They don't fear for their even for their own death. All of them experience a very calm, very tranquil state of their minds. So all of them are happy, we can say, before attaining that ultimate goal. Before attaining the ultimate goal, still the Buddhist followers are supposed to be happy. They are supposed to be happy. In one sutta, the Buddha says, "O monks, I do not ask you to follow this path, follow this spiritual path in a hard way. I don't ask you to follow this path worrying about something, being sad about something, but I ask you to follow this path happily." So there are many people who focus on the negative sides. There are many people who focus only on the suffering. And another thing is that we are supposed to focus on suffering, but that is knowing suffering as suffering. That is not suffering looking at suffering. I will say it again. Buddhists are supposed to know the suffering as it is. Any follower of Buddhism is not supposed to suffer looking at all the sufferings in the world. What we are supposed to do is to see the suffering as it is. So whoever determined to be happy as a Buddhist follower, I would say there are hundreds of ways for them to be happy while following Buddhism. Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante. I hope listener who asked that question is satisfied with Bhante's answers. Bhante, I have a personal question as well. Um, you mentioned that to be able to practice mudita, most times as a mundane person, lay person, one of the biggest obstacles is jealousy, or envy. So don't you think that we should actually eradicate envy first before we can even experience mudita on a regular basis?
That is a good question, but if it is so, then what is I mean, if there is a good method to eradicate envy first before developing mudita, then developing mudita can be much easier because envy is the problem. But mudita itself, developing mudita itself can be a good way to eradicate envy as well. That will not happen in one day or two. You will we will have to struggle for a few days in the beginning, but as you develop mudita, the envy also decreases. The other very good example for that is when you develop loving kindness or friendliness, that is to say metta in Pali, your anger level decreases. If you have other methods, if you have other ways to decrease your anger level, and then if you develop loving kindness, that's also okay. That's also a good way. But the other way around, I mean, the other method is also an efficient way. When you develop loving kindness, as you improve in your practice, your anger level decreases. So that is one. My personal view is that is a very good method taught in Buddhism, because we tend to focus on the negativity a lot, right? When we focus on our negative aspects and we struggle with them, we try to sometimes we try to hide them and we try to eradicate them. Yeah, there are ways to eradicate them. I mean, not totally eradicating, but there are ways to suppress them. But another method taught in Buddhism is to just focus on the positive sides, just focus on the good sides. As you develop the good sides of your mind, the bad sides will gradually go down.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you for that reply. I think, yeah, we will have to concentrate on the positive as opposed to concentrating on the negatives. I don't see any more questions from the audience. So maybe now we can proceed to the Anumodana to transfer the merits to the devas and also the departed beings.
Okay, then let's recite the Pali verses and transfer all the merits that we have accumulated in while listening this Dhamma talk to the devas and the departed beings. Idang vo nyati nang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idang vo nyati nang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idang vo nyati nang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Ittavata ca amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata ca amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata ca amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. And all these merits that we have accumulated so far may lead us all to the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. Idang me punya kammang asavakkaya vahang hotu. Idang me punya kammang asavakkaya vahang hotu. Idang me punya kammang asavakkaya vahang hotu. Sabba dukkha pamunchatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May you all be healthy and happy.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you. Thank you for conducting the Anumodana. So we've come to the end of this evening's Dhamma sharing by Bhante Vijithananda. I hope you all had benefited from Bhante's discourse, and we can practice mudita and take it to the different level and be more happy people on planet Earth. And so, on behalf of the Committee of Management and the monks of the Buddhist Mahavihara, let me take this opportunity to thank Bhante for joining us this evening and sharing his Dhamma knowledge. I know he's a very busy person. I also wish you all the success in your academic career, Bhante. I know you're sitting for some exams. It's very soon. I wish you all the best in your exams. Also to our sponsors this evening for sponsoring this Dhamma talk, and also to all our listeners who paid attention to Bhante over the past hour or so. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon. And Sukhi Hotu.